Council meeting for December 20th, 2022. The clerk will call the roll for attendance.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Givner.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Maldonado Velez.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Murphy Rumboletti. Puello.
Here.
Israel Rivera. Jenny Rivera.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
in the city of Holyoke.
And the city council.
Before we get started, because we have two people online, need a motion to take a roll call vote for the purposes of this meeting would be that all motions to receive, refer items to committee, remove them from the table, place them on the table, package them together, or suspend the rules unless there's an objection.
So moved. So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Councilor Murphy Rumboletti is on the way, so is Councilor Rivera. First one to vote for tonight on roll calls would be Councilor Murphy Rumboletti, just so everyone knows. And with that, we'll go right in order. Laid on the table, item 1.
We can take item 1 off the table for a quick discussion.
Motion to take item 1 off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, this came out of the Committee on Finance after being told that the City Council did not need to approve this. We've kept it on the table now for 2 meetings, waiting for a ruling from the Law Department, where some of us feel that even though it's a school gift, substantial school gift, but it's something that the City Council is supposed to approve, allowing the schools to receive it. I'm just wondering if the Law Department has any update on this.
Motion be to suspend rules, law department answered. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Mike's there? Or? Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good evening, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Evening.
Christmas.
I think on item 9 on your agenda,
I didn't see that.
We're on item 1.
But he's referring to item 9,
Okay.
I think.
I believe item 9 is the requested opinion from Solicitor Degnan
Mr.
concerning the
President,
authority
why
of
don't we
the
take
school
9 off the
committee
table?
to accept
I'll
those
second.
gifts.
All right, so motion is go out of order. Item 9. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 9 is a communication from the legal department. Dear Honorable Council, during the Finance Committee held on November 30th, 22, a question arose as to whether Mass General Law 40, Section 53A applies to the acceptance of the donation of the school department in accordance with Mass General Law 71, Section 37A. The school committee of the city, of the town, or district, the school committee is authorized to accept grants or gifts for education purposes. Monies accepted by the school committee shall be deposited with the treasurer and shall be extended to the school committee without any further appropriation, notwithstanding Mass General Law 4453. So motion is to receive that one.
Motion received.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor McGivern.
So I guess the question is, because the city is in receivership, the school committee has not had all of their purview, all of their powers during a normal, when the city schools are not in receivership. So I believe the auditor filed this with us, and I just wanted a ruling on that. Is the school committee able to make this type of a decision?
Mike? Did you hear that?
Well, in this case, it's very specifically addressed under the receivership statute. So the receiver takes on all the power and authority of the school committee. So on behalf of the school committee of Holyoke, the receiver is authorized to accept gifts and donations.
He kind of froze up.
That power reverts back to the school committee.
Councilor McGivern.
I just remember the Commissioner of Education, when he spoke in Holyoke, I believe it was at the War Memorial, said that they were going to turn the Holyoke Public Schools around without any additional monies. And now we're being told that the receiver can receive additional monies without the city council and mayor knowing.
Looks like you froze up, Joe.
Should we send it to committee? Because I actually did have a couple questions too. I don't know if we want to get into them. It looks like we lost our lawyer here. But,
Want to take,
or table it for
Take-
another meeting, or
table it or send it to finance?
Send it to.
maybe finance, then we can have everybody come in.
Okay, we can send both to finance.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'll
take
second
item
that.
9 and 1 and refer to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Item 2.
If we could take item 2 and 3 as a package, take them off the table, suspend the rules, and take up item 49 with them.
Second that.
Now, so, you get to 49.
Oh,
Motion is take up 2, 3, and 49 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 2 is the city appropriate the amount of $275,000 for school improvements, for a series of improvements. 3 is the Committee on Finance referred the MSBA feasibility appropriation, and then 49 is that we take from capital stabilization $275,000 to the MSBA. Motion be to receive and adopt and be passed the first reading on
49.
49. But under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick reminder, we, Finance Committee, took up the MSBA proposed project, which is an accelerated repair program project itself. Just highlights 80% reimbursed. And the Whitney Anderson and Anthony Soto were before the Finance Committee, went through each of the schools, which will benefit from new windows, some new doors, and a couple of other items that the Finance Committee felt, made sense to take advantage of the MSBA AR accelerated repair program itself. However, what the Finance Committee said, Councilor Jordan first, and then the Finance Committee agreed, and I think even the mayor agreed, and obviously he did, that we didn't think it was appropriate to bond for this. The other reminder is that in order to go forward on the project, the MSBA requires the city to have the funding in place. And the way the MSBA grant works is the reimbursement grant itself. So the mayor agreed to seek and to put before us, an alternate way of funding it. That's item 49. He's proposing to take the $275,000 out of the capital stabilization fund itself. Again, that money will eventually be 80% reimbursed. And the mayor said if it doesn't go directly back into the fund, he would take the steps to put it back in the fund as the money comes back in the door from the MSBA. So we had some time. There is a Whitney Anderson, if we need him, is on Zoom. There is a deadline coming up with the MSBA in January where we have to give them, put our vote in place and give them a yes or no. Item 3 is the resolution and the acceptance of the bid by the MSBA to participate in this. And I think, yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I'm suggesting that, we return the bond request at the mayor's request. We return the bond proposal to the auditor, and that we adopt item 3, and we also adopt item 49.
All right, Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple points. One is I agree with the chairman. I think that is the correct course of action on all these 3 items. I would just add a couple different things. The $55,000 share that will be the city's share of this is a perfect opportunity for the schools in their management letter to the city that is negotiated with the mayor, they should find the $55,000 to fund the city's share of this money. For example, they just are getting an anonymous gift for $1 million. $55,000 of that could be used to pay to do this estimate for the doors and the windows and such in the schools. We really don't have an extra $55,000 to go and do this. And Lord only knows what the actual, this is just to get an estimate. That's like bringing an estimator to your house. Then he says, oh, here's the estimate. Now give us all this money to actually do the work. So 275 doesn't, just so everybody's clear, you don't get one door, one window for 275,000. I think between this and I believe it was approximately an extra $6 million the school is getting under the 2019 additional funds from the state, this should be getting covered. This is a perfect example of what receivership and the state coming up with purportedly money. By the way, that 2019 money is going to all the districts in the state. It's nothing, just so we're all crystal clear, that's nothing special for Holyoke. Some cities like Springfield and others are getting in the double digits of millions of dollars, 10 plus. And this is a perfect example that they could help us here with this. Money is extremely tight on the general fund side. So I would encourage the mayor and Mr. Soto to work it out to find this $55,000 and then also consider what, when we get this done with, when this big ticket item, which is going to be, I'm sure, into the several million to actually do the work, how we get that covered as well. So look forward to those discussions going forward, but I do agree this work does need to be done and we should advance it tonight.
Anyone further? Seeing none, so motion be take 2 and refer it back to the auditor. Correct?
Yes, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Take up 3 and 49 as the package, and motion would be to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for both.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Aiken,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Hartley,
Yes.
Kivner. Kivner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve those. Item 4. Still laying on the table until we get the info?
Yes, just waiting for legal at this point.
Okay. So that one stays. Next is public comment. I do have the sheet for here. There's no one signed up. Is there anyone online? No hands are raised, so no public comment tonight. No one is signed up. Next is communications. 5 is from the mayor reappointing Mr. Diaz to the Valley Opportunity Council, which is a 3-year term, which will go to December 31st, 2025.
Suspend the rules and confirm the appointment.
Motion
Second.
to rules, confirm the appointment.
Mr. President, why don't we take 5, 6, and 7? Unless I'm.
Seven's a new
5 and
one,
6,
just
I'm
so you-
sorry.
All right, so 5 and
5
6
and
would
6,
be
please.
reappointments. So motion is take up 5 and 6 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6 is also another member, and that would be Ms. Figueroa, and that's also a 3-year term for the same time period. Motion would be receive, adopt, confirm the appointments. Under discussion?
So moved.
Anyone?
Second.
No one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7 is an appointment, a new appointment for
Public
HEDIC,
service.
Public
and that would go to public service. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 8 is a reappointment of the commissioners on the Council of Aging.
Suspend the rules and approve.
Approved.
Has everyone
Second.
seen the list of all the people?
Yep.
Any questions on it? Seeing none, so motion is to receive and reappoint all the members listed for a 1-year term, which will expire August 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nine, we already did. 10 is the minutes of the meeting for December 6th, which was
Motion
a special
received.
meeting, and December 12th. Motion is received.
Second.
And adopt the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 11 is from the treasurer, which is the credit rating from Moody's.
Receive, refer to finance.
Motion is sent to
Second.
finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 12 is the city license agreement for the ambulance company.
Receive and refer to finance.
Finance. all-
DGR,
DGNR.
where it goes,
Okay, so
Okay.
to DGNR.
Was there a reason it was DGNR?
because it's always been there. That's what we do.
I think for.
All the licenses go to DGR.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
This, oh,
You go ahead, Councilor
Yes.
Jordan. You had a question or?
I don't know. That was a very passionate DGNR, so I will not get, I will
Well,
not get in the way of that.
You've been going there for years.
Move over.
I'm letting that go.
I'm scared
not
too,
going
bro.
there.
I'm scared too. That's where it goes.
To DGNR.
Good job, David.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye. Enjoy.
13 is the HUD.
Receive and
Based
refer to
on-
ordinance.
To ordinance.
Along
All
with 13 or 14, I think they're both going to ordinance.
So take up 13 and 14 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 14 is from Mike Miardi, the UMass Greater Springfield Housing Analysis. So both to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 15 is the PARAC fiscal year 2024
To fin-
Finance?
to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 16 is from Hoyoke Redevelopment Authority.
President, I just wanted to read it. I'm sorry.
So Redevelopment Authority summary of activities from November 1st, 2021 to October 31st, 2022.
I'd like to make a motion and send it to DGR, but it's just under discussion, if I may.
All right, so 16 will go to DGNR under discussion. Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of these in my tenure on the board. I was very impressed by it, and I just want to have them possibly come in and just have a brief discussion with Aaron and John at some point when we have a meeting. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, so to DGNR, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Petitions, there's one petition for tenant bill of rights. Send that to
Ordinance?
Public,
Ordinance?
is it a public safety or?
I mean, it was in public.
Counselor
It was.
Bacon. We already did public safety, but.
Just a
Okay,
point of
Counselor Bacon. Yeah, go ahead, Counselor Bacon.
information. Do we have a certified petition?
Yeah,
Okay.
certified.
Because there just was, usually there's.
No, it's right here. I have it.
We didn't have it on our copy. Thanks.
No problem. Counselor Bartley.
Where's this going?
I'd say to ordinance.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe public safety depends what the chairman wants, but I was just wondering are they looking for us to adopt something, Councilor Rivera?
I think they want for us to look and have a conversation about the tenant bill of rights and possibly think about adopting something around it.
What do you think? Should it go to public safety or
I-
go to ordinance?
I think that if it needs to go to ordinance for it to be set in stone, then it makes sense for it to go to ordinance so they could have the conversation. But if she has a lot on her plate, I could do the conversation on public safety and then refer it to ordinance so that they could just.
So
Yeah,
moved.
that's a good idea.
So moved.
Public safety.
All right.
Public safety, copy to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? President's report. One regarding late files. Jeffrey did some research. As he said, he went down a rabbit hole and kept reading and reading. When we get to late files, what we're going to now do is, if you file a late file, we're going to post it immediately online, but we'll still receive them the way we do and then refer them to committee afterwards. But in order to be in compliance with the open meeting law, once we receive them, they should be posted right away for the public to see. So he has done that. We're catching up. Yeah, with a notation of date and time. Just to let you know how it's going to be posted. Councilor Jordan.
That's a great idea, by the way. But hand in hand with that, can our assistant perhaps email us? Because if I don't check some online, it would be nice to have a heads up maybe over the weekend if something comes in.
Well, we're still going to receive them normally,
No,
but
no.
just for posting purposes, he's going to post it online.
But what I'm suggesting is that it would be nice to receive a notification that late files have come in and that we actually get a copy that we can see it in advance of the meeting so that when we get here and we
Don't we-
find out there's late files,
Don't we always get that?
I think we do.
Yeah, we
Get
have,
an email?
yeah. Oh, just communications?
just,
It's usually just communication, so I can do the orders too.
Oh, okay, so, okay.
people are, yeah, because there's people filing orders late file. It's getting, I think we're getting the word out not to do this as much, but earlier on. And we would come and we don't have it, so we don't even know it's coming up. It's just,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
thank you.
Counselor Bartley.
Yes, so I have no problem with any of those suggestions. I just want to point out that the clerk got on top of everybody and said, look, come on, here are the rules, right? We all know what the rules are, and hopefully the department heads are gathering that too. Friday, for most of the times, by noon. It's not that hard. And then second off, we have, since we made a rule change several years ago by my initiative to at least have some documentation for these things, so we never had, prior to that, we never had documentation. So at least the clerk puts them on the meeting minutes. So we know that they're always documented somewhere. I like the idea of getting them on the website even quicker. So that's just, so everything we have will stay in place. This is just going to be an additional layer of open government.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone further? Also, got a report from the mayor's office. The food drive that we've been doing, 2 carloads have been delivered of food to the pantry. So thank you to everyone who's been involved in that. Coat drive, downstairs, there's a full bucket, so that'll be 1 bag going over of coats. If you have used coats or anything else you want to donate, please keep it coming as the cold weather is coming in. I was reminded by our leader here of the Flower Fund. Councilor McGivern has been very gracious in managing the Flower Fund and keeping us updated. If you are a member or were a member or not a member, please check in order to make sure that you are a member to contribute to the Flower Fund. For, an example, we're going to be getting requests for ads for St. Patrick's Day, for everything, and we list everyone's name. So if you're part of the Flower Fund, we're contributing to cover that. But you have to be part of the Flower Fund to do that. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, see me after a meeting and we'll just get caught up. It appears there might be some people missing. Councilor McGivern, do you have your hand?
There'll be no freebies this year.
Councilor Bartley.
The treasurer.
Sorry, Joe, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just a friendly reminder to everybody. Some people opted out, which is fine, but a couple people who didn't opt out have not been contributing as of late.
It might just be a treasurer's error.
We take it automatically?
It's supposed to come out automatically, but
You have to, when you first start, you have to sign off on your W-4. But yes, it is.
You're good.
yeah, you
Yeah.
should be. But
If not,
we'll
you have to-
confirm with everyone. But I just bring it up as a heads up. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just to add what the finance chair said, when you start with the employment, then you tell HR, Ms. Curran,
Yep.
that you want to have that deducted from your payroll. So
Correct.
that's how that works.
Correct.
So it's a $20 line item. Second, Mr. President, there's the nice people at Tiano is going to have some wonderful senior lunches from now, and I think through winter anyhow, from 11 to 2. I think they're going to be like $3. So that's just a nice little, I know food insecurity, that's a phrase everybody talks about, and I'm not sure what gets done about it, but Mr. Cruz is doing something about it. So that's to be credited. And lastly, Mr. President, I did attend on behalf of, I wasn't told to, but on behalf of everybody for the police award ceremony. What a fantastic presentation, Mr. President. And the mayor gave some remarks, I gave some ever so brief remarks, basically said everybody in this room supports the police. That's what I said. But the main thing is the stories that we heard were incredible. Just whether it's act of heroism, just daily activities, training that just wonderful things they're doing for the citizens of the city. So it was lasted 45 minutes, an hour, and it was just a great ceremony, and credit to the mayor and to the chief of police, and of course to the awardees.
Anyone else? Thank you, Councilor Bartley. Councilor Murphy-Ramboletti.
Just a quick question for those of us that are new. And Councilor McGivern, maybe I'm concerned, one of the ones who said I wanted to be in on the Flower Fund and not getting in on the Flower Fund. I'm not sure, but do you let us know what we're supporting? Do we get the opportunity to weigh in on that, just for us to better understand?
Yeah, so the Flower Fund is a $20 contribution per pay period, of which it goes into an account and Councilor McGivern manages it. It'll be like the parade committee. They want an ad to support an ad. We all normally say yes to that. There might be a request for the football teams traveling or whatever else, and we'll bring it up, we'll email it out, and if no one objects, we give a donation to it.
Cool.
Sometimes a fellow counselor might have passed away, we'll send flowers or something of that nature to that type of stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Just making it
And then
so folks understand what we're talking about.
and then after the 2-year term is up, we'll have our holiday party together, get together, just us, and we use the Flower Fund to.
That's the one we weren't
that
invited to.
Festival, get together.
Well, also for a lot of us new counselors, we did not have Kelly Curran as our HR administrator at the time, and we did not have our current treasurer, Rory Casey, at the time. So I'm sure, some of us did reach out to predecessors. And so, I think this is a good opportunity for us to make sure we're all on the same page.
That's why I just bring it up as a heads.
Appreciate it,
Oh, they're
Todd.
taking my money.
Thank you.
Anyone further? I know Councilor Anderson Burgos is online. Councilor?
Yes, thank you, President McGee. So last Wednesday at Kelly School, it was the 7th anniversary of the community dinner, but it was my first time attending. Some of our counselors were there. So Councilor Givner, Councilor Israel Rivera, Jenny Rivera, Maldonado Velez, and our representative Patricia Duffy were there. We helped hand out foods, watch the children. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful event. And while I was there, I found out that the initial people who started this community dinner was the late and great Justin Chavez, may he rest in peace, Israel Rivera, our counselor, and Priscilla Rivera. And if you've never been, they're already planning for the 8th year. You should really attend. It's a time for us to communicate and connect to our constituents. It's a great event. It was very well attended, and it was such a good feeling. It really was. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. All right, so finally, I'll just say to everyone here, the chairs, the committees, thank you for all your work. It's been a very busy year. So with that, thank you for everything that you do, as well as happy holidays, happy New Year, and Merry Christmas to all of you. In case I forget it as we do our motion to adjourn. Just not right now, we still have some more work to do. But thank you for everyone. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. With that, we're on to reports of committee. Do we want to take up A and B or separately?
Please.
Okay, so
Motion
motion to suspend the rules, take up A and B as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? A is ordinance to refer to special permit for 1 Cabot Street. Recommend that be adopted with the following conditions. 1, that the owner of the building always pay commercial property taxes to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum of 30% of Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. Hiring preference, number 3, be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or retired members of another police department who now live in the city. 4, shall be no consumption allowed on site, that the hours of operations be set according to ordinance, that the applicant abide by Mass General laws with regards to the Campus Control Committee, that the petitioner applicant shall conform with the city of state health rules, and then 8, that progress has not been occurred within 2 years of issuance of a special permit to the extension shall be required. and that has been signed off. B is the same 1 Cabot Street with the same provision, so motion would be to receive and adopt. Our discussion, Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So one of these is for a delivery, and the other is for an MME. And as the president said, the motion is to receive and adopt the committee report and grant the special permit. This was a very interesting application because it's one of our Holyoke citizens, a Ward 5 resident, and she is 100% owner of this business for which she is seeking both of these permits. And she made good use of a consultant who came in with her to the meeting also. And so I think this is getting into the arena of our small business people, getting involved in the business that up until now has been pretty much largely dominated by the bigger companies. And so my understanding is if the council votes to approve this and it is coming to you unanimously from the committee, that it will be sort of a collaborative in that building down the road if things go as planned of 2 or 3 businesses there. The other thing that I think is good to note is it's in a central location for bus and walkability for employees. And so I think there's a number of things that work in favor of this particular application. If any other members have anything to add, I think those were the unique high points. Thanks.
Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to kind of speak in support of the license, just mostly because, like Councilor Bacon mentioned, this is Holyoke, and it's a Holyoke business, 100% owned by a Holyoker, and it's impressive for someone from Holyoke to be able to reach this level of ownership, especially within an industry that is filled with millionaires, pretty much per se, right? This is a person that grew up in Ward 1, ended up purchasing a house in Ward 5, now is a resident of Ward 5, and has worked hard to get to where they are at now. I've watched them or her from the beginning, attending all the social equity meetings, programs that you have to attend across the state, and take advantage of a lot of different funds that you're able to access as a social equity applicant. So just that alone is a story for Holyoke upon itself to see, and the fact that we have technically one of our own getting into the industry, it's just an awesome situation for us overall, I guess. But yeah, I just wanted to speak in support.
Anyone else? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I wanted to speak also in favor of this. I remember this person coming forward, I think maybe a year or 2 ago before they even started, or just starting out, and determined, and someone that's really willing to start a business from the ground up, and it's a real benefit to the community to have somebody local to put their time and effort into this business, and I wish them well.
Councilor Rivera.
I myself is in favor of the marriage. She's a hard worker. She's worked very hard for this. Not only that, she's also amazing with the community. She's always volunteering. She's always contributing to anything and anything anybody wants. She's there. So I am in favor of that. It's well deserved.
See no one else. Motion is to receive and adopt and grant the special permits for A and B. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for both.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Absolutely, yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
12 yeas and 1 abstain.
We vote you approve that. 18C, Committee on Ordinance to refer to handicap sign at 72 Hampshire. Recommend it be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this came to us from the council, and the Disabilities Commission reviewed it and recommended approval. And so we have it before you.
Any questions on this one? So pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion to
reading.
pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the handicap sign.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puelo,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 18D, Command and Ordinance was referred in order that Section 2-35 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Classification of Compensation Plan be amended to update the compensation amount for the Emergency Management Director position. Change, substitute 2,000 to 5,000 annually. So motion is that recommended be amended. I have two signatures, Counselor Bacon, Counselor Mulla Velez. Counselor Givner, do you sign for this one? 18D?
Yes, I do.
President McGee,
Yes.
I have a question through you to our law department.
Hold on one second. Let me just do this. Counselor Givner, do you sign for this one? The jacket?
Yes, I do.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
I'll sign for you. And then Counselor Israel Rivera, do you sign as well? 'Cause you,
Yeah.
okay, just making sure.
I just got here a little late.
No worries.
You have my signature there?
No, that's why.
Oh, I'll sign it.
Just follow the rules. So, that one's signed. With that, Counselor Anderson Burgos has a question for legal. Motion be to suspend the
So
rules,
moved.
allow him to ask questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Counselor Anderson Burgos.
Yeah, this is regarding 18D, which is the salary of the emergency management, the emergency management stipend. I'm part of the emergency management team. I do not get paid. It's volunteered work. Is there an issue when it comes to voting for items such as this, when it comes to the stipend? I just don't want to vote on something that, that could be wrong.
No, there's no conflict because it doesn't impact you personally.
Right.
If you were a family member, perhaps, of the incumbent emergency management director, that might be a different story. But this is a benefit, in the concept of conflict of interest law, to benefit the entire community.
Correct.
And that's the reason for the change. So there's no direct conflict of interest other than you share a common interest with the rest of the members of the community as to this particular issue.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Bissonnette.
You're more than welcome.
So, Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this came to committee following an update and review of the job description for this position. And in committee, we were advised that the funding for the stipend had already been included in the budget. And so the committee is recommending to upgrade this stipend from 2,000 to 5,000.
Anyone further? No. So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be
Motion
ordained.
that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 18D.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puelo,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 18E, the Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that in an effort to streamline services to residents, create language that eliminates ordinances to review and for the City Council to vote on installation removal of handicap signs for residents with required handicap parking qualifications have recommended that have been complied with. Councilor Viken.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this particular order had been reviewed under another order quite extensively in public safety. And so this order had been in the ordinance jacket as well. And the maker of this order, upon discussion in committee, graciously agreed to consider it complied with, given the discussion and the depth of it that had taken place in public safety. And it just indicates that we need to keep it in this structure because of the legal listing of the handicap parking spaces.
Anyone further? So motion that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Off to Finance. 19A, Committee on Finance, refer the City Council grant the Hoyoke Public Schools a 5-year contract for bus services. Recommend it be adopted. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met. We had Mickey Buell from the school department in. I remind everyone that it was a few years ago that we gave the schools permission to, in Massachusetts, let me back up a little bit, under Mass General Law, in order to go out for a contract for over 3 years, you have to have permission of the legislative body and in the municipality of the mayor. And we granted them that permission on the bus contract, and we saw the school saw a significant savings, which actually came back to the city side of the budget earlier when we took a vote this year when they identified the savings itself. In advance of the new contract coming up, in order to attract a number of different people for an RFP, Mr. Bull is asking us to give us that permission again for the 5-year contract to attract a number of requests for proposals that could again give us the public schools and eventually the city some significant savings with the school bus contract. Finance Committee believes it's a good idea and would ask the City Council to do just that.
Anyway, Councilor Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor from a procedural perspective, but will the final contract ultimately, we're giving them the authority to negotiate a 5-year contract, but would they have to come back to us with the whatever deal they cook to actually get our approval at the end of the rainbow?
Councilor McGivern.
That is correct, and we did ask that question, and
Okay.
we were told it would come back.
Okay, great. Second question is Durham one of the current the current contract holder, one of the applicants?
He is, Mickey's online.
Mickey, I believe it is. Mickey Buell is online.
wanna-
Suspend
Suspend
the
the rules.
rules to allow Mr. Bull to
Second.
answer some
All those in
questions.
favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
Mr. Buell, is Durham one of the applicants to get the contract renewal?
So we haven't gone out to bid yet, so this is actually asking permission to go out to bid and have the bid state we're seeking a 5-year contract. We would anticipate that as the current provider, they would be likely to bid, but we would be getting to those bids in the winter.
And this is for a contract that would be effective when? When's the current?
Starting at the beginning of next school year.
So
That's the
July
first
1st,
of 5
or-
years.
It'd be 7/1?
Correct.
Okay. Are you aware, I want to just bring to your attention to make sure it wasn't lost on you, are you aware that a national group is now, there was a large article about suing Durham relative to idling, and that they had followed Durham in Holyoke specifically? They cite us as the biggest example of them not complying with the state's environmental idling law. And they even said that at some of our schools, they were idling the buses up to an hour when it's supposed to be 5 minutes. Are you aware of that lawsuit?
Yes, yeah, we are aware of that.
Okay, and hopefully you're addressing it either as part of this process or in advance of that, because we do hope that everybody's complying with state law.
I can say that as our current vendor,
Yeah.
addressing as our current vendor. So we haven't applied it to the bidding process yet. But in working, we actually just received the first draft of the bid specs earlier tonight. I've been reading them in between items here.
Okay.
And we've already talked about what we have to do to build that into the bid process.
Because obviously, you know, they're bringing in a cause of action against Durham, but in addition to that, I don't want them to turn around and say we're turning a blind eye, and then they come and sue us and also name the Holyoke School Department as a defendant in this case that, you know, we're letting this go. So if you could, as you get more and gather more information about that situation, if you could debrief the city council offline, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Anyone further? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I'm glad Councilor Jordan brought that up. I just found that out today. And to Mickey, if that's possible to do that, Mr. Buell, because, you know, I think it mentioned Worcester also, and Holyoke and Worcester have
That's
one of the
correct.
highest.
Those are the two.
Yeah, one of the highest asthma rates in the state. So I think it's important to make sure that is addressed and looked at. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor McGivern.
I just wonder out loud if the bulk of that observation of buses idling might have been at the alternative school on Northampton Street, which is not part of the public schools, where we see buses showing up as early as 1:30 in the afternoon, parked on Northampton Street illegally, waiting to pick up some kids in a school that is overstuffed with employees and cars, as we all know and that neighborhood knows. But I'm sure that would have been an easy spot for someone that was investigating a bus company to take a look at them.
Anyone further? Seeing none, so the motion is to receive and adopt and grant the ability for a 5-year contract. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for that.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
You vote you approve that one. 19B, Committee on Finance, who, in order, accordance with Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, City Council accept the provisions of the Road Safety Program, $35,000 no match grant. Motion be received. Oh, no, they actually return this to auditor. So motion was turned to auditor. Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, when we received this back on November 15th, we weren't sure, we didn't think it was a duplicate, but it is a duplicate, and we've identified that, and it can be returned to the auditor.
All right, so back to the auditor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? C is for finance, which is the Land and Conservation Fund, Gateway City Park Program for $390,000, no match grant. Motion would be to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is yet another part of a wonderful saga of the Anniversary Hill Park funding, and Yoni was in from Conservation to talk about this $390,000 no match. It's just amazing the vision that is about to take place, or actually is about to go into the final phase of design and approval, and the vision of what Anniversary Hill Park is going to become in the future. But Yoni walked us through all the particulars of this $390,000, and the committee was once again impressed with his graphs and hold on this proposed project, and we suggest that we accept it. There's no match, and it goes into a funding which is now well over $1.5 million. I think we're getting close to $2 million.
Yep.
But the committee would recommend that the council approve accepting and the use of this grant.
Anyone further? Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 390.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 19D, Wisteria Hearst Foundation, Inc., $75,000 interior painting donation. Motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think many of us know that when a gift is given to the city, into the city for especially a monetary or something that has value, the legislative body and the mayor have to accept it. We go for sometimes months, years at a time where we don't see anything. Then all of a sudden we start seeing some very generous donations, as is this one. We had before us Megan Sealer from Wisteria Hearst, and representing the Friends of Wisteria Hearst, a monetary gift of $75,000 to exclusively be used for the exterior painting of the building. Megan's been before us before. I believe there was a CPA grant and talk about the importance of the upkeep of this building. And this generous $75,000 will allow Wisteria Hearst to fulfill the completion of the exterior painting. We can't say enough thank you to the Friends. The Friends have been around for a long time. They're not just involved with some of their fundraising efforts, but they help promote Wisteria Hearst. They help do a lot of different events at Wisteria Hearst, volunteer their time, and this is certainly volunteering their generosity. And we would ask the City Council to accept it, and all of us join in thanking them.
Anyone further? Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $75,000.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Puelo?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
I think I have to abstain.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
12 yeas, 1 abstain.
With your vote, you approve that one. 19E, Command of Finance, a request for $2,275.75 authorized from City Clerk Department, ordinance codification. Recommend it be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was the end of the year invoice from Civic Plus, I believe, and it's as you stated, a final invoice for the codification process through the city clerk. Just the city clerk is looking for. We have the invoice. We went through it in detail, and the city clerk is looking for permission to use this year's monies for last year's bill.
Anyone further? Seeing none, motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $2,275.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Puelo?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that one. 19F, the Committee on Finance, in order that the City Council accept the donation of computers for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Donation of the gift is for the Veteran Services Department for assisting veterans with computer literacy, resume writing, and other potential opportunities. Recommended it be receive and adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met with Jesus Pereira. There are 9 computers coming in. They got the IT department approval that they are compatible, will be able to be used within the city domain itself. They have a value of about $250, $300, which includes I believe the hard drive, the board, and everything necessary for our veterans to have something to use. I certainly would turn over the speaking to Councilor Rivera, who introduced this order, and it was a pleasure to see such a thoughtful gift to come into the city of Holyoke.
Councilor Rivera.
No, I'm glad that you guys were able to take up the order and vote on it. Pretty much, it's a pretty good opportunity for veterans to be able to take advantage of the computers that are being donated. It's not every day that people have the opportunity to go into different a space to receive their services and use the computers that are there available. So it was a great idea. Well, not an idea. They brought it up to me, and I wanted to file it as fast as possible to make sure that they got the computers. But yeah.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, as a veteran, I think this is a very important item. Sometimes you don't think about that people have these things at hand, and they can use this for job search. They could use this for getting benefits. use it for remote care at the VA hospital if they can't get up to the VA hospital. So it's, a few $100s each, but it's a very important thing for a person that doesn't have a computer and can't access one to be able to utilize that at the War Memorial.
Going further, see no one else. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. Clerk call. If you vote yes, you're voting for the acceptance.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Poello?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
You voted for that one. 19G, Committee on Finance, transfer of $57,169.98 from heavy motor equipment to R&M Street and Fixtures. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilman McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Garcia was with us in the Finance Committee, and this particular transfer is to pay for an item that we'd learned about earlier this year, in which there was a proposal to paint the city street lampposts and fixtures, and the Gas and Electric took on the duties of doing this. The $57,169.98 is an invoice to pay for it. The mayor apologized. He identified the money and put it in front of us a little bit late, but said the work was most of the work has now been completed, and they just unfortunately, and not intentionally, jumped the gun a little bit. And the mayor is asking us that we pass the transfer to pay the invoice itself. They not only painted them, but they stripped the light fixtures down to the bare and started up the painting over completely. And did if you take a look, they look tremendous and did a good job. The irony of this, I said to the mayor, was if in the surplus in the heavy motor equipment operator is the vacancies that we've seen in the DPW for these positions over the past couple of years. They're starting to fill those vacancies, but it's still been a little difficult. The irony is if we don't pay this bill, or if the city doesn't pay this bill, the money comes out of the ratepayers, out of the Gas and Electric, which would not be fair to the ratepayers, who are also those who pay the taxes into the funds for the city to do their city side of the budget to do their business. So the committee recommends, on behalf of the mayor, that we pass the appropriation transfer to pay the invoice.
Anyone further? Seeing none, motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Poello?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 19H, Committee on Finance, request of $190 from DPW admin in-state travel to recruitment. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, the mayor took point on this transfer. It's coming out of the DPW budget. This was part of an effort to find a replacement for the superintendent of the DPW, which we learned that person has been hired. The recruit that was coming in was brought into the city of Holyoke, and the $190 pays for the stay at a local hotel while the city and the DPW, the mayor, and so forth were working on trying to negotiate his hiring and negotiate a contract. After listening to the mayor, we agreed that the $190 transfer is appropriate. He explained why it just can't come out of in-state travel. It's obviously a little bit different, so it does have to go into, for the auditor's purposes, into the line item known as recruitment.
Anyone further?
Was it a Holyoke hotel?
Yes,
Yep.
it was.
Fairfield.
Whiting Farms Road, so.
Excellent.
Keep the money in Holyoke. You can see the room charge and the
And the
state-
taxes.
State tax and city tax. So
Hotel tax.
we pulled in some money.
We're trying to recycle the money.
Trying to get the money back in the coffers, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's $10.20.
$0.20.
Absolutely.
Go.
So, pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion passes second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for $190.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Puello?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 19I, Command and Finance was $165,000 from capital stabilization to highway, bridges, and capital outlay. Return to the auditor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is at the mayor's request. Now that they've hired a new superintendent, he said he's learned in his career that oftentimes it's much better to have a new person and especially in the position, this particular position, to come forward with their proposal as to what the capital outlay needs are within the DPW itself. So he's asked us to return this to the auditor and let Mr. Rossi start over from scratch.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 19J, Community Finance, request of $35,000 from local building inspector, property demo supervisor, to other contracted services. Recommended be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is something that we've been voting on periodically throughout the year, knowing that now there's no building inspector, there is no local inspectors. That includes electric and plumbing, and in order to get permits approved with the appropriate certified inspectors, the building department is contracting out, sometimes hiring retired people, sometimes hiring people part-time from other communities. The surplus local building inspector, property maintenance, demolition supervisor is because those positions have not been filled, and the $35,000 go into that line item known as other contracted services to do just that. The committee recommends the transfer be adopted.
Anyone further? Seeing none, motion is pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Puello?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote approve that one. 19K, Finance was referred an order from the Hoyoke Public Schools, the Food Service Management Agreement. Recommended be adopted. Motion to receive, adopt. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I give the committee report, I apologize to Mickey Buell. He's still online. I should have asked to go out of order and take this up while he was with us, because he spent a good amount of time with the Finance Committee last week. Again, this is a request to allow for a 5-year contract. This one's a little bit different, though, because this is the food service, the management agreement with, for the Hoyoke Public Schools. There is no tax dollars that are involved in this. It's just allowing the schools to enter into a 5-year agreement with the food service management company themselves. $500,000 a year is returned through a revolving account back into the, I believe it's into the school budget itself. I could be wrong. Anybody remember? Or is it, I think it's into
It goes
the
into
fund.
buy things for the kitchen.
Yeah, and into the fund to buy the things that are necessary for the cafeterias and kitchens
yeah.
within the schools themselves. So it makes a lot of sense by doing it 5 years. The savings is greater with the contract that they can enter into.
Councilor Jordan.
I'm abstaining from this vote.
Anyone further on this one? All right, motion is to receive, adopt, grant the 5 years. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for that.
Murphy Ramboletti?
Yes.
Puello?
Yes.
Israel Rivera?
Yes.
Jenny Rivera?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Givner?
Yes.
Maldonado Velez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
12 yeas, 1 abstain.
Your vote, you approve that. Takes us to the end of finance.
Mr.
I
President?
believe.
Mr. President?
Counselor Bartley.
Just a quick point of order. I know we had a public safety committee meeting the other night.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. For some reason, it's missing. But Counselor Rivera, you have a motion.
Yep. Motion to pull it out of committee so that
Motion.
Okay.
we can.
We'll explain it.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Counselor Rivera.
So the reason why it's not on there because we forgot to comply with the order after the whole meeting was after we took the whole meeting. But the meeting was awesome, right? We had maybe like 20, 30.
50. I watched it. Counted quite a few.
Families that came in. Most of them from Holyoke. There were some that weren't. But I think they were coming in anyways and voicing their opinions. But most of them from Holyoke, they came in to pretty much voice their opinions around rent control and also around landlords that are not complying with codes and asking questions around what happens to landlords that do not comply with codes and what the process looks like. So that way it's fair for the residents that are paying their rent on time and doing what they need to do. It was very impactful, for me at least. It was a very long meeting, and it was a good experience for me as chair, pretty much, to try to manage so many different personalities and different people in the space. If anyone else that was on the committee with me or that was present wants to speak on it, they can. But for me, it was a very awesome experience. That's pretty much what I can say on it.
Counselor Murphy-Ramboletti.
Thank you. I'll keep my comments brief, but I was here that evening, and it also was a great opportunity. I am one of two on this council that is a renter. And it's not a word that I'm ashamed of. I have been actively looking in the housing market, and let me tell you, it is not fun to look for that. But at the same time, renters have the same rights as what we always refer to as taxpayers, and we pay for taxes via our rent. And so our rent goes up when taxes go up. And so just for me, it was really great to hear from residents. And, you know, I was able to go to the vacant buildings conference that several folks from the city attended back in, gosh, I don't even remember when that was now, October, September. But one of the things that we talked about is a rental registry. And there are a lot of communities that do a rental registry. And it's not necessarily about having folks pay a fine. It's more about being able to have the names and contact information for property owners. And I have talked to the Board of Health about this. And, you know, I think the feedback that I do get from city departments is that they don't have the capacity, they don't have the staff needed to maintain a list like that. But I hope as the city council goes forward and as all of us are continuing to think about what our annual budget looks like and, you know, just other grant opportunities that come before us, I think that's something long-term that could go a long way. But I just thank Councilor Rivera for handling the public hearing in a great way because it's not easy, as a lot of us know. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Counselor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought that was a really great meeting. It was interesting to find that over 60% of Holyoke residents are renters. So that was a nice reality check. And the complaints were, you know, basically really emotional, heartfelt complaints about deplorable positions, you know, or deplorable circumstances that tenants are living in. So I hope that we can figure out a way to staff our departments so that these kind of health code violations are addressed because they're really unsafe and unhealthy. The whole thing was organized by a tenants union of Western Mass, and they had put together that Bill of Renters' Rights. So I hope we can support this. I thought it was really good to hear what residents of the city had to say about what they're living through. Thanks.
Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, thanks. I felt a little guilty leaving that night after our special meeting. The girl goes, "You're leaving?" And she was one of the leaders of it. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go home and watch it on TV." And I watched it. I couldn't get away from it. I mean, the stuff I heard was unbelievable, what people are living with. I was a renter before we bought our house for 9 years. And, certain things you take for granted. You have a place and somebody comes up and fixes your thing, or if you got some kind of a roach or any kind of painting problem or whatever, plumbing problem, they take care of it. But there's a lot of people that's not taken care of. To hear what they had to say is really important. And it sounded like they look into the state maybe too, our legislators, to see if something in the state can happen where the state rep or the state senator, I know that their names were mentioned. And I also want to give kudos to Councilor Rivera. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that came at you, and you just handled the meeting well. And a couple people called one of our colleagues out, and I thought it was well how you handled that. That you don't call out anybody's name, and it was important to hear that because, we're here to help our residents. And a lot of times people say they bash and nobody gets back to me, but people are here that represent the city. They represent their residents, and it's important that they know that, and that all our names and numbers and emails are listed. So if people are home listening saying that this person's not doing anything for me, I mean, everybody here is putting in 100%, and I think every counselor here knows that. And I'm glad you stuck up for that counselor and handled the meeting well. Thank you.
Anyone further? Counselor Jordan.
Yeah, just a couple things. I was able to listen to a decent portion of the meeting, and again, I was glad that they were able to come forward and bring their concerns. For very eye-opening. Not surprising, however. I do have to say a number of the things that they have said, I have heard these things in the past. I know myself as a lawyer, it really breaks my heart to see people that have to live in those conditions. Of course, for the vast majority of my, certainly my younger life, from a kid all the way up, I was always a renter, in those circumstances. So I know myself as a son of a single mom and going through those type of situations and not having, being poor, it's, you feel very disempowered and you feel very vulnerable. I will say though that we need to help educate, to direct people into their legal rights, okay? And that's one of the services that we need to have. It's not just about, quote unquote, a Bill of Rights. It's, you've already got a ton of rights in this state that there are advocacy groups that are out there. There is access to legal counsel. There is opportunities to withhold rent and to fight these issues in mediation and otherwise in the housing court. We need to help make sure that we're doing a good job, whether it's our departments or otherwise, letting people know the services and access that they do have out there, because people that are predatory landlords, it's going to be very, very difficult to operate in this state as a predatory landlord. The laws are such that you will be held to account ultimately if tenants know their rights and have access to good legal counsel. So I think that's part of the solution here. In it is about helping people who feel powerless get knowledge so that they can already exercise on their current rights. I will say that, the voters of Massachusetts made a decision, I want to say 20 years ago, to prevent rent control in this state. So that's certainly not going to happen anytime soon without major legislative change at the state level. So I think Holyoke can be part of the solution of this. I think the point was well stated earlier about what resources do we need to make sure that people doing inspections of these housing situations, so that when you have these type of deplorable conditions, those things are called out and landlords are being held accountable, because it supports good landlords when we hold accountable bad landlords, right? Because there's nothing worse than two sets of rules. We need to have one set of rules, because otherwise it's a discouragement to those that play by the rules when those that don't. So we need to really look at sort of a comprehensive approach and making sure that Holyoke is doing its part in all of this. So look forward to the conversation we're going to have in the future on this. And I certainly think there's room for us to help, for sure. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I do think it's important, too, for our residents to know that we as the ward counselors and the at-large counselors can help at the local level on a day-to-day basis. And I do want to put a plug in for our health department, because I do think they are quite responsive. And for people who have difficulty getting through some of the bureaucracy in our city, I think it was good that it was pointed out, and I made sure folks at the meeting and in Ward 5 have my contact information. And as Councilor Tallman pointed out, our information is available on the website. Because I think lots of times we can be helpful on a one-on-one to help somebody get something resolved in the moment. And so, I know that's something that I do, and I'm sure my colleagues do it as well. So we work each day, one day at a time. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Rivera.
So I
Jenny Rivera. Sorry.
My bad.
Her hand went up,
You're supposed to say it broke you after.
I also was in the meeting that day. I stood, and I was listening to their stories. I worked for 25 years in personal injury, so I was the one that would get the phone calls where we had slip and falls because something was wrong with stairs, or they were taking a shower and the ceiling came down at them. So I know a lot of the landlords because of all of that when I worked in personal injury. And now as a Ward 1, I get a lot of phone calls, and I think the Board of Health is sick of me because I'm constantly calling them. And one of the buildings they did bring up on Mosher and West Street, right across from my house, is one of the ones I am working with the Board of Health. The problem I have with them, because they're afraid, a lot of these people are afraid to bring something up to the Board of Health because they're afraid to get evicted. That building is trashed by my house. And they did sign, but the Board of Health is not working with me on that one though, because they want apartment numbers, they want phone numbers, and now they're afraid to do that. But that building is really bad. The fire department is there at least 2 to 3 times a week. So I know what they're going through. Like I said, I did it with the personal injury for 25 years. So I know a lot of the landlords here that are horrible. And with the city council, I get constant phone calls. That's one of the big things. Like I said, I'm always calling the Board of Health. I think they're tired of me. All right.
Well, we can call too if you want us to. And some of the at-large counselors to maybe put a little fire under them.
Yeah, it would help.
Councilor Bartley, I'm gonna get to you.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I did watch the meeting. I just would hope that, one year in, we have to work together a little bit more. I'm gonna make a few disparate kind of comments. One, we have to understand if we're running a meeting, we have to know that it's a public hearing. You tell the public when the meeting starts, you talk directly to the chair. You're not talking to everybody in the room. Second of all, apparently we need to make a reminder we can't use profanity in a public microphone because we heard profanity used at that microphone again that night. Third of all, when we're running a meeting and we give a report, we say, I'd like to make a motion. And the motion, we didn't have hear that tonight, a motion that the order's been complied with. And counselors that are on, I'm not saying to the newer counselors, especially counselors have been on here for more than a minute, we have to sort of remind chairs to do that. And I do that myself with Tessa. I've done that multiple times. So, well, I think I'm not going to, hold your hand doing it. We're just going to point it out. I don't think we're being mean. So we just point out that's how you run a meeting, and that's how you get through it. As for the substantive stuff of it, I am a landlord, and I'm not going to defend any other landlord here tonight. I just know I do a damn good job, and my tenants enjoy living there since they've been there multiple years. I would say that if we're going to have these meetings, I hope it's something different than what we put the HG&E manager through, where we have 3 hours of, we'll just call it testimony, be gentle. But what came out of that? There was an order that was complied with. To my knowledge, nothing. I saw no follow-up from that. So I'm going to recommend a couple things just for thoughts. I hear about a tenant bill of rights. I'm more of a counselor that likes to get hands-on and likes to produce something actually tangible. So, for example, we heard that night that the law department and perhaps code enforcement is lacking. Well,
Is there not an order for that?
Hold on, Councilor Bartley. Hold on. Go ahead, Councilor Bartley.
I guess so. We'll just keep going. So, if that's something that's going to create change, then we've got to get on top of code enforcement, the law department, just like they do in Springfield. I work with them all the time. I represent many landlords. They deal with all sorts of things with code enforcement. I will agree that some of the comments that night, code enforcement in Springfield is a lot different than it is here. But let's be real, it's a much larger budget. So with a lot more employees and a lot more staff, whether it's in inspections or in the law department. So, but perhaps there is room for that. That's a question for the mayor. Maybe the Flex Squad can be something that can provide regular feedback relative to housing. I hope that's true. The last thing I'm going to say, and I thought it was a wonderful comment by the Ward 2 councilor that night, though I thought he was kind of cut off a little bit, but I think the comment is genuine. That is to say, we just returned about $4 billion to the taxpayers. We just heard on the news tonight relative to mass rental voucher program and Section 8, there are tens of thousands that are eligible that cannot get the rental assistance. The Ward 2 councilor pointed it out that night, mentioning our state delegation. If that is what's coming out of this body, that's got to be communicated to the state delegation as a priority. My hope is that those words are being said. We're not just talking to ourselves in an echo chamber. Are we talking to, we're supposed to have them come in here. So I would just say to the chair, that's one of the rules that we have as a DGR chair. You're to file an order to go ahead and bring them in and have the hearing. So have them come in to tell us what's going on in Boston, and we can bring this thing up, bring these issues up to our state delegation. So those are just some of the tangible thoughts. You know, a tenant bill of rights, I guess that'll make us feel good. Where's the legal foundation for that? I don't know. But hopefully we'll get one, and we'll get something genuine to come forward. I guess I could go on, but that's enough for now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Anderson Burgos, you had your hand up?
I did. I'm all set.
All right. Councilor Rivera.
So, I don't know, man. I've been told and I've been congratulated for running a good meeting, and right now I just feel like I ran a shitty meeting. Excuse my language.
Please stop.
Excuse the profanity. My bad. My bad. But I'm trying to work like a team, as a part of a team, just so people understand that, right? I'm trying to work with everyone on the council. Like, I don't understand what came out of all of the regurgitation or everything that just came that was just mentioned. What was the purpose? Like, what community got built there? How did that bring us together as a council? I don't understand the purpose behind it. You're going to teach me a lesson on what, Robert's rules? I don't. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. But I guess what I wanted to say before all of that was that I want to commend at least 3 landlords that were there, that were present. Virgilio, Steve Bosco, as well as Michael Moriarty, because it's tough and it's difficult to be in a place where there's like 40, 50 people speaking out against what you do as a profession. And they handled themselves professionally with regards to that. And I got to give them a shout out for being there and being present. It's easy to speak from a distance and not be present in the actual moment. I organize on a regular basis, and I don't just attend other people's events. I actually create and I build everlasting, long-lasting events. So it's beautiful when people are able to be present. And I appreciate all the counselors that were present and took the time to be present. I know not everybody could do that, but that's what our job is technically, to host community meetings that way and allow for the public to be able to speak up. And in the moment, if they're making mistakes, it's for us to be able to teach them through that process. They're not going to be able to know that because they don't normally come into these spaces or into this chamber. But to have that expectation for them, I would say that that's more of a problem with the self than the person that's actually not delivering what you're requesting from them. But overall, I thank all the people that came, thank all the counselors, and I want to thank the 3 landlords that showed up. Hopefully in the future, if any of these meetings come up, we have more landlords present so that they could speak on behalf of what they're dealing with regards to problems. And thank you.
Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. As far as like public hearings and whatnot, I feel like public hearings in general this term have gone relatively smooth compared to previous terms, where others were leading those public meetings. So I know Councilor Rivera just mentioned himself. That probably has to do with a lot of the previous person's comments around holding public hearings. I also do want to say, since I've been here, 12 months almost at this point, orders are literally sometimes just a sentence long. They may get referred to ordinance, and there we have a discussion. Then we ask legal, hey, do you have enough information to create a legal form around it, legal information? And that's what happens. So I'm not sure why these sort of orders that we've been putting in that have to do with renters, that have to do with 64% of our population, that have to do with 64% of the people that we're supposed to protect and represent are getting such backlash. It just doesn't make sense to me. I do want to commend Councilor Rivera for holding the public hearing, and again, every other councilor that has to do public hearings, because I know they're not easy at all. But I don't know, we're not perfect. None of us are perfect, and we're learning every single day, and none of the 13 of us are perfect. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just want to also state that there were 3 landlords there, and I know each one of them. I know they've worked hard in the city to try to keep their buildings up, and it must have been tough for them to come down here and speak. But through the chair to Councilor Rivera, you still ran a good meeting, but I think Councilor Barley saying, let's not lose this. Let's keep it moving. Let's get some people in here to try to move this along, not just a Bill of Rights, but let's get the state involved. Let's try to put something together where, if we need more people in the Board of Health, if we need more people, code enforcement, that's important to do that. I mean, we all on the same team. We all got to work together, and I think that's all he's pointing out is that we don't want this to just say we had a great meeting, people spoke out, and that's it, and now we forget about it for 6 months. I think we have to move on this and contact our legislators and contact the Board of Health again. Like I said, I talked to Jenny. I said if some of the at-large councils need to reach out to the Board of Health on Mosher and West Street, I mean, I'm willing to do that. And then not that all of a sudden they're going to have 10 people to run down there and do it, but if they get a little bit of motion, a little bit of movement from elected officials that we represent the city, we don't just represent certain areas, we're representing the whole city, that maybe something can get done, even if it's a small thing. I mean, it's one step at a time, but I think Councilor Barley's just trying to work with us and what we can do, as a council and how we can get things done. So, and you still ran a great meeting. You really did. I really applaud you on that, so.
Todd?
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, briefly, I would be remiss while we're having this conversation if I don't also put in a plug for the receivership program. When you get these type of, again, it won't be the 3 landlords that came. Those aren't the problem, right? Those are the good ones that show up and they work hard and they don't have these kind of issues. But when you talk about some of these landlords, if half of what was said at the rail is true, my goodness, I mean, you got people fighting mice, all kinds of these dilapidated conditions, no heat. These things are all totally illegal, all in violation of the state building code. If these type of things continue to be over and over again, repeat offenders, this city, does not make the type of commitment to the receivership program that Springfield does. Okay, they will go in and they have a dedicated legal representative in the court to take these properties, put them in receivership, and get rid of these bad landlords. I mean, it's not talking about new rights, it's exercising the current rights you have, okay? And I think the city, that is part of the answer. So when we get to, step B, C, and D down the road here, I think we got to revisit this city's commitment to receivership. This is a wonderful thing where you take over dilapidated buildings, bad landlords, all of the repeated massive code violations. You take these buildings over, you get someone to come in, and guess what? After the taxes are paid, they get paid first. The contractor that took care of fixing the problem. And who gets left holding the bag? The bad landlord. Okay? And that's just the way this is supposed to work. So I think we need to revisit our commitment to the receivership program. We've dabbled in it. We've done it a few times. But if this is as pervasive as we're being told, I think we need to revisit that as a possible, because that's a program that basically pays for itself and is all about what we all want: good buildings, good housing conditions for our residents. And again, these circumstances support good landlords, right? Because they're saying, hey, this guy's over here is bilking the system. He's collecting rents, leaves a dump. I'm over here. I make a small profit margin, but I've got nice apartments for my residents. Why am I competing against this, right? We're making sure that we have basic regulations and fairness amongst all tenants and landlords. And this is something our residents have an opportunity to be proud in. So that is definitely a constructive first step that we can take if we wanted to move forward. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilor Maldonado-Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Forgot what I wanted to finish off with. We did hear from a couple different neighboring cities and towns as well. Clearly, the crisis that we're facing is not just in Holyoke; it's nationwide. So with that, one, we asked that we can send a town hall video meeting to our state reps. Is that we can? Not going to ask that we can do that as a body. That was really what I wanted to ask. Thank you. Can we send it, or is that a motion that I have to make? That we motion that we send the town hall video and minutes to our state legislators.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So that one be done. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not to repeat anything, but quickly, just I did attend the public hearing. It was enjoyable. It's enjoyable because it's government at the level which was the purest form of government, and that's it's what we call a town meeting itself, which we cannot do in the size of the city like this. But the charter allows residents to sign a petition, to ask for a public hearing in front of us. Our job is to listen, and I think everybody that evening listened to a lot of stories. Some sad, some remarkable, some that brought some things that we know about and some that we didn't know about to our attention. I had reached out to make sure the Landlords Association knew about it. There are a lot of good landlords in this city. We saw two of them at the meeting. Unfortunately, the association is not active the way it used to be. They've grown into a more regional association, but they are landlords who are interested in issues like this. And they understand for all the good landlords, the bad landlords bring them down more than anything. And they stand with us on the code enforcement, on legal enforcement, on Board of Health codes enforcement across the board. And we just hope that we can continue our efforts. It is very difficult when you talk to the law department to bring a lot of these issues to housing court itself, because the LLC smoke and mirrors game is used very quickly with bad landlords. And the city, spends countless hours and dollars trying to enforce and trying to go after those LLCs, only to find out right when they think they're about to get a settlement, the LLC becomes something different and they have to start over. But not to get off on a tangent, great meeting, town hall, listening to people that elect us and listening to people who have concerns is what our job is.
Anyone further? So with that, I'll just say, as has been referenced, the main thing out of that meeting was it was a public hearing to hear the issues, to listen to them. That was our job. And it was done very well. Not only by the committee, but everyone who showed up, as well as the people in attendance. Was profanity used at the meeting? Yeah, one gentleman got very passionate, said something bad. When he said it again, second time, he was stopped by the chair. The chair did a very good job at running that meeting. There was a lot of passion. There was a lot of really nasty stories that we had to listen to that are not what we want to hear from our residents, because it's not right that they have to live that way. So, Councilor Bartley, you are correct. There was profanity used, but it was handled very well to stop it and shut it down. As far as, what was the next steps, I take us to petitions. Item 17, a petition for a tenant's bill of right, which is sent to public safety, copy to ordinance, of which then we are going to have the state delegation come in on that, because it is a state issue as well, something that was addressed in the committee. So things are going to process. The first process was to listen, which is what the committee did do. The real issue was, and Jeffrey pointed out, he said, well, we didn't make a motion. I said, I do believe we did make a motion that was complied with, because we did make a motion to close the public hearing and then move on. Somehow that was missed. That's just a step. So with that, what is now before us is that we pull it from committee and say that it is complied with, and we move on to the next step. So for everyone who was involved, those being the tenants, the actual 3 landlords that did come in and address that they supported the concerns that were going on, and it's something that wouldn't happen in their buildings. To all the council members here that were involved in that meeting, Councilor Vacan joined in by phone and gave out her address and has always been responsive to everyone up there. I think it really does come down to education. A lot of those residents didn't realize, you can call the public Board of Health. You can do this, what Sean does. Short staffing, money that we need. There's stuff that we have to do to help make it better, but I think this council did a phenomenal job as an entire group to address that. So the next steps are in process. There's more orders we've got to file. It's something that doesn't happen overnight, but let's not lose sight of the fact that we did the first step. We listened, and now we're going to take the next step to hopefully slowly deal with the issue. It's just not going to happen overnight. So with that, Councilor Rivera, your motion is that it's been complied with. Anything further?
That'll be all.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is, there was no public service. DGNR, the Committee on DGNR, to whom was referred an order of special permit application for 2 Orchard Street to add a second driveway for school buses to turn around. Recommended that the order be referred back to the city clerk and further referred to the DPW and city engineer for further action. Councilor Murphy-Ramboletti.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this order was filed several months ago, and we had a couple of public hearings, and I'm actually really glad that another councilor brought up public hearings, because I don't think any of us as new councilors who are in charge of public hearings were ever trained on this or anything, and I'm not really asking for it, but this was a very interesting experience for me as a new chair, because it turns out that we probably shouldn't have actually received this application, but it took us 2 public hearings to come to that decision. It also took, I went out to the applicant's house with the city engineer, so I want to thank our city engineer for dropping what he was doing to come out to our offices and to the resident's house. But the application that was filed here was for a front yard driveway. At first, I was told as a chair of a public hearing that we actually needed the planning board to weigh in on this decision. And so we held the decision off for another hearing, but it turns out we actually didn't need that. And so, as a chair of a committee that has to run public hearings and has gotten no guidance on how to run public hearings, I was winging it on this one. And it would have been nice if I had a little more guidance from folks at the table. I do appreciate those who were trying to weigh in, but I just think it's not really fair to say that those of us who have been on the council for only a minute, which it's actually been a year, and we've put in 25 to 35 hours every week, so it's not a minute. But this right here, this public hearing right here, just kind of emphasizes what I see as the challenges from the public. This person came to us, did not know what they should be applying for. The reason why they shouldn't have been applying to the city council is because they were applying for a front yard driveway, but the engineer is actually the one who should be giving the approval, and that's what the board agreed on. Okay, so if excuse me? I can hear when folks are. Yeah, but I'm like sitting across the table, so I will. You'll have the opportunity to weigh in.
Counselor?
I am just honestly, like, as the chair of this committee, it would be really nice if, as Councilor Rivera said, we all worked as a team, and for other members of this committee to sort of judge all of us that have to run public hearings as new counselors. It's not what we signed up for. And so what I will say is that we did decide that we were going to refer this back to the city clerk and refer this to the DPW and the city engineer for further action, because it's more about a curb cut. It's not about getting a full front yard driveway. So it was not the right application that they filed for, and there wasn't a lot of guidance on our end. So I thank everyone for their patience and for their time, but I also just, I hope we can all try to work together as a team a little bit more instead of trying to go after folks when they're not exactly sure what they're doing. Thank you.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. And through the president to the chair of DGR, speaking for myself and to the steps that I took in an attempt to assist the chair, after the first public hearing, I spoke to her separately and let her know, as far as I understood the ordinances, only front driveways came to us at the council. And since it became evident, which we didn't know when we got it in the city council and sent it to DGR, that it wasn't a front driveway, that's where the confusion came in. And so, separate from the public hearing, I just spoke to her outside of the meeting and suggested that she check with legal, because as far as I knew, it shouldn't have been before us in the first place. But we had already opened the public hearing not knowing that, so we had to have the second public hearing, because we were already stuck in the process. So it just became one of those unfortunate circumstances, which have happened from time to time in other circumstances, because sometimes it's hard to exactly know when somebody's coming in with an application what it is that they're looking for specifically, So it took us that amount of steps to figure it out and then get it back to the departments that really are the ones that have the knowledge and background to make the determination whether a second driveway can actually go in for this particular resident. But I usually, if I think there is helpful information I can give to a chair, I won't usually do it in the public meeting. I'll just do it on the side and put it forth, because I defer to their role as the chair. So that's just me. Thank you.
Counselor Jordan.
The counselor makes a number of good points. First of all, let me say, I think everybody's doing a good job running the meetings and doing all that, and especially considering some of you have zero experience. You're coming in here, I think you're doing a great job. But I would be remiss, since we're on the topic, how can people be critical? I'm not critical, because I've never criticized anybody for running any meetings in here, but I'll just say this. In the old days, which aren't that long ago, usually you would come in and you actually had experience and you'd serve on this council for a period of time and you'd actually watch what other people do, right? So you'd serve here for a while and you'd be on a committee and you'd see how the chair runs it, who was typically a veteran counselor, right? And that's how you learn, right? Just like any job, you go on. You start in the mailroom and you work your way up. You don't come in and you start off as the president of the place, right? That's not typically how things work. But the new regime here now is, I come in on day one and I want to be the chair of everything. Okay. Oh, remember, we don't interrupt.
Hold on.
Everybody wants to be the chair of everything. So then when the assignments for chairs come out, it's who's been here the least gets all the chairmanships, and then it's, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, or I made a mistake and somebody's critical. I agree, people shouldn't be criticizing that, but it's what happens here today is unprecedented. I took, for example, it wasn't until I was in my 8th term that I became a chairman of a committee on this council. 16 years before I got my first chairmanship. People are here before they even find out where the men's room is, and they're already running the place as a chair. So, then it's, okay, that's fine, but there's no cultivation or experience or system of, hey, let's see how you ran the meeting. And then, after a couple terms, now you're in charge. And that's how you get experience on the job. So these things are going to happen when, it's day one, everybody runs everything, and that's okay. That, this is the new way of doing things. I think everybody's doing an admirable job based on what I've seen. And that public hearing, no exception. I think you're doing a fantastic job. So we carry on. But this is the new world order here.
Councilor Rivera.
So like, and then for like, for chairmanship stuff and for new counselors, this is a unique situation, right? There's probably like 6 new people, right? So more than likely, you're going to end up with a new chair, right? Plus, things have been the same for a while with some of the same people or counselors. I don't want to say characters because I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm sorry for saying that. But at the end of the day, the same people on the council, right? So shifting the way things are, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of democracy overall, right? But I think that there's something to say that to the fact that what if everybody or a larger percentage of people were new on the council and there wasn't enough people to be able to train up or talk up another counselor, right? There should be some sort of process where there is training just like you would receive at any other job, on Robert's rules, on any of this stuff, where like there are people, who's to say that someone else in Ward 1 or Ward 2 pulls papers and has no experience at all in any of this, and they win? Are they expected to know how to do any of this on the first day? Like so I guess that kind of speaks to what Councilor Murphy Ramaletti was speaking to. It like there is no actual orientation, right? We could try to rely on what MMA provides for us overall. I'm taking a master's in public administration, focus on this, and they don't even teach you anything about orders, charter rules, any of that stuff in a master's program. So like overall, like where is the actual support for the people that are coming in new? Even if you're not running a chair, or if you're not chairing a meeting, where is the support just to understand what is Robert's rules, what is happening here in chambers? This is democracy, right? Anybody can run. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can be someone that decides to stay home and take care of your kids and not go to school and not have a total understanding of government. You just want to speak up and advocate for your community. It is not supposed to be expected of you to be a professional of this or at this level when you're first coming in. And if you want a chair, if you want to lead, you should still have that opportunity. It doesn't make any sense that you would have to wait 16 years. That sucks. I tell you the truth, that would not happen. I mean, I would be kicking and screaming because 16 years, that's a bid, bro. Like, that's a whole sentence. Like, well, I mean, I give you credit, 110%. You know what I mean? But it's a different
You
day
gotta
and
laugh at
age.
that
We're not doing that right now. We're not doing that right now. That's not where society's at. People don't keep jobs longer than 5 or 6 years anymore. That's not where we're at anymore. So as a city, as a community, we got to start moving in that direction too as well. But I hear you with regards to what you're saying there, but we're still missing a piece for training overall for anyone that's coming on the council, whether it's city clerk, council, treasurer, whoever it is. If someone, let's just say somebody runs against the city clerk, that person, we hope that they know what the hell they're doing. We hope that they know what they're doing, because if not, then what? There is no actual training. But I guess I digress.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Is there a motion?
We're on the driveway order.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're on the driveway.
Yeah,
But,
Motion
you know,
fine. It's all my
Motion,
fault.
let's all get
We can-
along.
On the
No,
motion.
no.
Keep it
Okay,
going. On the
fine.
motion. On the
I'm
motion.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
I have the floor. Just give me a
Thank
second. So first, I wanted to ask that. Is there a motion? But since we're on this topic, and I've said this, and I say it, and I'll say it over and over and over again, so I'm blue in the face, that if we continue taking stabs at each other, if we continue to publicly humiliate one another, we're never going to get better. We're supposed to be coming into these rooms and making this city better, except what we're doing is publicly shaming our newer counselors because they messed up somewhere, or they didn't do something, or they didn't follow Robert's rules. And Councilor Rivera made a very, very solid, good point. This time around, there was an influx of newer counselors. There is no way that most of us could have taken the chair. That would have meant I would have been the chair of like 4 committees or something. You know, it wasn't just possible. So we can't keep going back and forth and taking cheap shots. We can't keep doing that. We're holding up the real important work. And the community is looking at us. I'm sure they got popcorn popping in their mouth and like, wow, this is really interesting. Well, guess what? It's not. This is embarrassing. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, on the special permit request, I just want to make a couple of important comments, because this is an issue that is yet to be resolved and needs to be. Mr. Antonio Rodriguez was, had the petition request himself, in the 2 Orchard Street is for a second driveway school bus turnaround, which doesn't make any sense, although it's the reason that he's looking for the second driveway. And that's because one of his children needs a special pickup to be brought back and forth to the public schools. And Orchard Street, as many of us know, is a very tight street with a lot of on-street parking, and it's a dead-end street where it's difficult for a bus to turn around. That to me, is a school issue and a bus company issue that they have to resolve and figure out a way, and the student needs to come first. What we asked was 2 things. When we took 2 meetings to recognize this driveway is not what we usually vote on, is when a curb cut is the DPW's responsibility to put a driveway in. It's not the driveway, it's the curb cut over the sidewalk. With this request in front of us, we took us 2 meetings to figure out it's not in front of the house, so why are we voting on it? I asked the question, are we supposed to vote on a second driveway for one parcel? And we were told no, that can be, reviewed by the DPW, the commission, and the Board of Public Works themselves. So the committee is asking that we send this to the DPW in hope that they can work with the schools to act on this as quick as possible and to do something that will help Mr. Rodriguez in this very important issue itself. He was, I have to give him a lot of credit, after 2 meetings, even though frustrated, he did seem to understand what we were saying, and we wish him nothing but the best in resolving the matter. I don't think wasting any more time on chairmanships is important. To anybody who's been around for 12 months, There's no more rookies in this room. Welcome. It's over. You've seen everything from the budget to 12 classification hearings, zone petition hearings. Once you run a zone petition hearing, you know you've done everything. But it's the rookie status is gone. You're all veterans, so welcome. And looking forward to working with everybody next year. To my friend, Councilor Jordan, the reason he waited 16 years is some crazy man was president of the city council for 26 years, and that person made the mistake of not juggling chairmanships a little bit quicker and giving Councilor Jordan the chance to be a chair. And I accept the blame for that. And I just one of the few things I regret as being president of this body. I hope it's not something that you'll ever regret, Councilor McGee, but that's the only thing I will admit to.
You said 26 years? No, I'm Councilor Bartley first, and then Councilor Aiken.
Right, so I'm just going to, I just want to get to the substantive part, but I'll digress for 1 second. When I came on the board, Mr. President, there were 15 of us, and when we got elected the year I did, there were 6 new ones. And Councilor McGivern gave us about a 2-hour orientation, sat right over there. It was very helpful. So why that didn't happen now or then or whatever, but we got through it and we figured it out. Relative to the substantive piece, the applicant, the petitioner, certainly has very legitimate concerns. For whatever reason, they have not been satisfied by the school department, not satisfied by the bus company. I think what we did was we gave the best advice we could. There are abutters, too, that had serious concerns about this petition, and there were several abutters that were present at the first public hearing. They were not at the second public hearing, but they certainly made their points. And my hope is that those abutters' voices will still be heard, whether it's with the city engineer or the Board of Public Works as well. So I think that there's room for common ground, but those of us who went on site to the address in question saw what the petitioner did to the petitioner's driveway. That is, built a fence to cut off 2/3 of the driveway, and it doesn't allow for the bus to pull in anymore. So the petitioner did this to himself, which, and now they want us to redress it and correct it. I don't think so, and those are some of the issues pointed out by the abutters. So my hope is that there will be common ground. Certainly the petitioner has a very serious issue with a special needs child, and that has got to be accommodated. So let's try to get the Chris Baker with the school department and the petitioner together, and hopefully they can figure this out. But I think the course of action that we gave, and it took a minute because it was confusing, was the best course of action. Thank you.
Councilor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to note that the committee as a whole also recommended that the applicant, since it was technically not needed, could have their permit fee reimbursed. So that was a recommendation from the committee also.
That's a good one.
Okay. Councilor Tom.
Thanks.
Can I weigh in just a bit? I did see the meeting, or I heard about the meeting, and I think she did a good job trying to solve this constituents issue. Through the chair, Kevin, I think it took me about 14 years. I've been there a few years, but it took me 14.
You refused 3 times.
Yeah, well, and recently I got back on, and I'm still learning.
Quit in the middle of one of them.
Yeah.
So don't forget that.
Yeah.
And by the way, we weren't all new counselors that came back last year, just for the record.
And I'm still learning. I'm a chair of public service. Sometimes I have some missteps. It's not easy. But a lot of it is like OJT. There's no way. You start,
exactly.
You get appointed, you learn as you go. So, and I think the new counselors, as Councilor McGivern said, there's no rookies here. You all should be proud. The constituents should be proud of the work that you're doing for them. And I really look forward to working with you next year and trying to get our work done for the city, for our constituents.
Anyone further?
On the motion.
All right. So, lastly, because it was brought up, orientation. Every counselor that was new, we keep calling them new. They're not new. It's been a year. Was sat with, went over all the things that we could go over when you're trying to discuss this stuff. But it's an open door policy where they can call, whether it's myself or anyone else in this room, to get information to try and do it correctly. I mess things up all the time.
No.
Oh, I do. I do.
I don't believe that.
I do. And that's the learning curve. There's things that I'll fire out and I say, this is the rule. We've been doing it for X number of years that I've been here. And then legal comes back and says, well, we just found a nuance. Overlay district would be an example. You can't do this in the overlay. And they turn around and say, well, there was this nuance. There's always a nuance. And therefore, we learn as we go. As one word that was used tonight, it's patience. We are going to learn together to get this done. Just got to have patience with it. Our constituents, kind of like clients for a job or anything else, they forum shop. They go to Councilor Vacan. They go to me. If they don't like the results from bonus, they go to Councilor Barley. And sometimes they go to a department and they file certain things, and it comes to us because everyone runs to us. And we try and fix it. Whether or not we're doing it right or like this one, it should have been done a different way. It is what it is. Got to have patience, get it done, do the best we can for our residents. So to me, you are not rookies. I put you in the positions that I thought were going to be what we needed for this city. That was my call. And I stand by it. And I stand by it because, one, I've seen the work and how it's developed over this year, as well as I saw it when I saw public safety. I saw a chair who everyone says is a newbie and stuff stand up and manage a meeting very well. And I said it when I started. One, happy holidays or anything else. But two, to our chairs and everyone who sits on a committee, thank you. Thank you for what you do. You're doing a phenomenal job. I see it. I appreciate it. And therefore, I think what we have to do is just take a step back. What's the date today? December 20th. We're 4 days away from Christmas Eve. So let's go. Let's focus on what's going on. A little patience and get ready for the holiday season. With that, the motion is that we refer it to DPW engineer for further action. All those in favor?
And reimburse the permit fee.
Just permit, yeah.
All right, so
A recommendation,
motion would be
right?
to amend
Yeah.
this to ask for reimbursement. Because it just says back to the city clerk to reimburse.
Oh, okay.
To reimburse.
But
So
that's what it meant.
Yeah.
to reimburse. Okay.
I'm sorry? Oh,
Yeah. All right. And then, so refer back to the city clerk to reimburse the fee, referring to DPW's engineer and the treasurer.
yes.
On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion that it's now been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Or opposed? There is no charter and rules. There's no joint committee. We're on to motions, orders, and resolutions. If it's going to committee, don't debate it. From Councilor Rivera, or that the Honorable City Council accept the revised fiscal year 21 CPA MIFA Victory Theater project. So that would be to
Finance.
finance. All
Finance,
those in
yeah.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
26, can we suspend the rules to take up final action tonight?
26, motion be receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Order that the Honorable City Council approve an increased funding request for the amount of $3,000 to Wisteria Hearst Museum for their painting restoration project. Councilor?
I didn't have a chance to ask Councilor Rivera, who represents us on the CPA, if he thought this was a good idea this evening because he came a little bit late, but I just want to note he ate his first scone this evening, and I think Jeffrey's got a smile on his face. I think everybody recognizes we just adopted accepting a gift for the projects that are going on at Wisteria Hearst. We already adopted a $125,000 CPA grant for the project, and it's well detailed that this is an additional $3,000 because of the rise in cost of materials and the project itself. I see no need to bring Megan or anybody back in. If everybody agrees, we could just adopt this evening.
Councilor Jordan?
What painting is this? To paint the outside of the building?
Yes.
Okay. So the question got raised when we were talking about Girls Inc. and what's maintenance and what's not maintenance. This was cited as, Well, counselor, what's the problem? We're painting wisteria hearse. But my point was, well, maybe that's not right either. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page that this is legal. Painting the outside of a building that's already painted, where I come, I mean, I've always known if the paint is, beat up and I'm scraping off the old paint and I'm repainting it, is that maintenance? I think it's maintenance. Probably it's absolutely work that needs to be done and should be done and funded by the city. But if we're going to use CPA funds, there's a specific state prohibition on maintenance. Okay, so we need to all make sure that what we're doing is work that's legally compliant. So when that was brought to my attention, and now I said, well, that happened before I got here. But now that if we're going to vote to actually do this, I want to have approval from the law department, from Kathy, who's researched this topic, to say, yep, you guys are okay. That's not maintenance. That's because painting is, you're painting a mural or you're doing something that's true historic restoration, not, repainting something that's already been done. So it's not quite as easy as we think. So I think we need to have somebody look into that.
Anyone further? Councilor McGivern?
I stand by my request to have this adopted this evening. Wisteria Hearst is on the historic register. The building itself is part of our history. I think most of us know the history of Wisteria Hearst. It represents a time gone by, but it represents a time when a owner of a company chose to bring this building down from a hill town above Northampton, put it into this city with his family to live in it for the purpose of running the Skinner Mills that are now the Heritage Park, first employing during 1 year alone thousands and thousands of people. But the house itself became historical. It represents something that we don't, in terms of architecture, and something that we just don't see anymore. And when the families, the descendants of the Skinner family, William Skinner to be more specific, came to a point where they found out that it would no longer be their living residence, came to the city and asked if the city was willing to take it over as a museum, as a preservation of part of history. This is history preservation. An extra $3,000 into something we already approved is what I'm asking the City Council to agree to this evening.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I was just wondering, through the chair, if the maker of the order would accept a friendly amendment that if we approve it tonight, it would just be with also the request for legal to be sure that it complies with the CPA regs before we expend it.
Let's do that.
Well, I have no objection to asking an opinion from legal. It doesn't mean we have to agree with legal.
Right.
Preservation, if you talk to people on the state level, Community Preservation Fund is exactly about what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. And we may have an attorney or a law department that understands what maintenance is, and I understand Councilor Jordane's point, and I agree with them. We have to be careful with that. But this is preservation of history, and this is what we're doing. So maybe we can just kind of friendly amend it, send a copy to legal to get an opinion, and then they can refer to the CPA, and we can have it for future reference ourselves.
So motion is receive, adopt, pass first reading, pending,
subject to
a legal.
Law department approving the funding.
Right.
For legal compliance.
I wouldn't.
Exactly what I said, no. I'm sorry. I don't
If
to jump
if
in.
I can.
No.
Okay.
So
Under
I'm just making
discussion.
sure on the motions and stuff, but hold on one second. Councilor Rivera, then Councilor Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, the opinion we getting from our lawyer, with all due respect to Ms. Degnan, I'm not sure. So there's lawyers are identified for specific fields, right? I'm not sure if it's fair to set her up in that way, more or less, because unless I'm speaking ahead of myself, but I don't think she's a lawyer that is all in the historic field like that to that extent. Because if she is, then all power to you, Kathy. No disrespect. I am not trying to disrespect you in no way possible. But in reality, where I'm trying to look at is, if you have an insurance lawyer, is different than a criminal lawyer just like a historical preservation, a lawyer that fights for historical preservation would be different than a lawyer that fights for a landlord or whatnot in the court of law. Every lawyer has their own expertise or profession, right? So if we get an opinion, I would prefer it to be from someone that has experience in dealing with Community Preservation Act on the state level and other levels that they've done this on across the state, not just in the guise that we have, where we have lawyers on the council using their expertise in trying to influence decisions that are being made by our legal department, more or less. So I don't feel like that's a fair situation for our legal department in general, right? But at the end of the day, for the people applying, or the Wisteria-Hearst Museum, which is a city entity, more or less, if it's deemed historic already, the improvements that are being made or any renovations that are being made are gonna ultimately be historic regardless, because it's already deemed historic. If you're splitting hairs and you decide to split hairs, then that's a different situation. But in reality, any improvements that are being made at that place, regardless, they're going to be deemed historic. Whether you improve the wall in the front, that's going to be deemed historic. You know what I'm saying? You don't need the wall in the front. But when you improve it and you improve it to its historical value, it's got to be historic, regardless of what you do with regards to that, because it's already deemed historic. That's all I'll say, I guess.
Councilor Jordan.
Okay. I raise a legal point because whatever we do here needs to be legally compliant. Gee, I hope we all agree with that. Makers of law, makers of history, not breakers of law. All I'm asking is that whatever we spend is actually legal to spend. To say we don't want to spend money in a legally compliant way is to say what? You want to spend money in illegally incompliant way, right? I don't think that's too much to ask. Then to counter that argument, to say, oh, well, this is the most wonderful building and Mr. Skinner and this and that, and get it, I'll stipulate to the fact it's a wonderful building, and thank you, Mr. Skinner, and I love Wisteria-Hearst. If this was the manger holding baby Jesus, it wouldn't make a difference to me at all. It is not anything to do with the building or the structure or whatever you want to get into. The issue is the work and the scope of work legally allowed? It's really quite a simple question. And then to say, we dance on the head of a pin around here to make sure in other instances things are legally compliant, I would say here it was. Girls Inc. is a perfect example. Turns out a substantial portion of the money that was provided was not legally compliant and had to be pulled back, okay? We want to avoid that happening again. And it's not a question of having the work done. Maybe the answer is we need to take $3,000 from capital stabilization and go do the work. The issue is not, we're all in agreement that the work needs to be done. The issue is, can you use CPA funds versus other sources of city revenue to do the work? And the question is, the law department should make sure that that's okay, because there are special rules for these funds. That's all. We're all on the same page to do the 3,000. Just a question of the source, and that's it. So anyways, that seems like a no-brainer, quite frankly, requirement and request. I don't understand. What's the argument? We're afraid of the answer? Is that what the argument is? We just want to do whatever we want to do, and ends justify the means? As soon as you create government that's ends justify the means, you go down a pretty bad rabbit hole.
Councilor Vacan.
Yes, I just wanted to briefly make the point that it's just to assure that we're being consistent in what we're approving or what we're denying. Because if there's ever a look back in terms of how the funds were used or not used, I think I'm supporting the idea that we would have legal look at it just so that we would have that backup for our action. I don't think anybody's against funding the painting, but we want to make sure that if we are doing it, it then isn't going to be in conflict with a prior decision. That's all.
Counselor
Thanks.
Bartley.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. I find myself in agreement with, I think, just about every argument here. I think the main thing is we want to get this done. Let me just make one small aside. And I heard what Counselor said, and I get it. But when we're talking about our law department, Mr. President, we understand that Wisteria-Hearst is a city department. We understand that the members of the law department are municipal attorneys. There's no way in heaven on earth that any attorney is going to be an expert in one esoteric particular piece of mass law. But I think their general practice is municipal law. I think that if we're going to ask for a legal opinion from our law department relative to a city department, that we should probably take it to heart, and it should probably stand, because they are municipal law attorneys. So my hope is that we'll read it and we'll grasp it and understand it, and then we can always follow up with them. I mean, they're not from Mount Zeus. I mean, it's an opinion, just like the SJC, just like the court in Washington. They're legal opinions. They're court opinions. That being said, my hope is that, and I want to come to this with just a slightly different take, Wisteria-Hearst also generates its own revenue. No one has said that here tonight, but they have their own revenue. And now what they're saying is we received $125,000, but we can't leverage $3,000 of our own funds? And that's not even brought to the table? I find that amazing. I was just say one more historical thing. I know I say expressions here all the time, Mr. President. I realize people have been here more than a minute. It's just an expression for a short period of time. I hope people realize it's a metaphor. But when I do know the President remembers the serious mismanagement from Wisteria-Hearst to the tune of $250,000, poof, gone, missing in the auditor's report. So it's not like, and I heard what other councilors say, we want Mr. Skinner's legacy to remain. It's a beautiful property for the most part. I mean, put the wall that got shattered on one end to the side. But it's a beautiful property run by basically volunteers with a good manager. My hope is that they would have come back to us and said, thank you for the 125. We're now going to be able to leverage 3,000 of our own money instead of having to go through these gymnastics. But since it's before us, either let's have an order or a motion, I would hope, to say, let's get them to 3,000 for this, for CPA, if it's feasible through the law department. If it is not, then let's find another method or another source of revenue, whether it's from capital stabilization or from their own revenue. So I just would like to boil it down to give them the confidence that, yes, we're going to get them to $3,000. We just have to get the right legal source to provide the funds. So my motion is going to be, wow, that's a mouthful, but my motion is going to be, Mr. President, that yes, we support this based upon a legal opinion. If the legal opinion is contrary to the CPA, that we request that the mayor appropriate $3,000 from capital stabilization.
I'll second that.
All right. So motion is that we approve pending legal approval that you can do this. If not, they'll have to get money from somewhere else. That was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So that was the motion for that. Motion is that we approve the $3,000 that passed the first reading.
Make a motion, refer to Committee on Finance. Copy to the law department.
All right, motion is to send to Finance. All those in
Second.
favor for that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So we'll go to Finance. With a copy to legal. All right, 27. From Councilor Rivera that the Public Health and Legal Department come before the Public Safety to elaborate on the process of code enforcement for landlords and the courts aren't compliant with city ordinances. So to Public Safety with a copy to Public Health and Legal Department. All those in favor?
Aye. Mr. President.
I'd like to be added to that.
Yeah.
Mr.
Oh, sorry.
President.
They're asking to use a sticky here, and I asked Jeff on that, and
Could I also be added to that, please? Councilor Rivera.
adding Counselor Tallman and Counselor Givner. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. 28 from Counselor Rivera. Order at the Honorable City Council invite representatives from Hoyok Community College, Westfield State, and the 5 colleges discuss ways could support the path of Hoyok's youth to gain access to these schools. Motion be to
Joint committee, I guess.
Joint committee?
DGR maybe, or?
GR. Was,
DGNR? Okay.
that,
so
was, that was my hope. The idea behind that is to try to have, because a lot of the universities and the 5 colleges come to Holyoke to do a lot of work and a lot of voluntary work and build their students up, they get that for free of charge. So for me, it's like, how can you help support students that are graduating high school to get either full rides, if not, and easier access to get to their schools? Like a trade-off, more or less.
Okay.
Mr. President?
What was that?
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I just want to elaborate on that point. I did have the opportunity to speak with certain members of HCC's student government body, and my understanding is that they want to come here, and believe it or not, they want to observe this city council. So my hope is that they'll do that, and then we can certainly work with them to we can work with them to possibly give them some rules on, give us some expertise on Robert's rules, right? I'm sure sure they'll be fascinating.
All right, so this is to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
They actually don't do that.
President, can we
29.
Take up 29 and 30 together.
All right, motion to take up 29 and 30 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? From Counselor Bacon is both, or that the ordinance is to create a pavement cut moratorium as new section 7859. 30 is order that the sewer use policy be revised. So these are both to ordinance?
Yes, and they just come by way of
Second.
our engineer to update our policies.
Both to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 31 from Counselor Bacon, Counselor Puelo, that the solicitor draft a ballot question for the next eligible election for voters to decide if the
Charter rules.
CPA tax should reduce from 1.5 to 0.5. So this
For the
would be
Committee on Finance with a copy of legal.
so to finance with a copy to legal.
That's a
All
good,
those in
well,
favor?
hold on.
So-
That sounds good. Charter and rules?
This would need to go to
I think we'd have to go in charter rules.
Yeah.
charter and
That was my
rules
motion.
in order to be able to move anywhere.
Okay, so this is to charter and rules, copy to legal. All those in favor?
Hey, under discussion?
Yep, okay, go ahead, Counselor.
Why would it be charter and rules?
Because it's a ballot question.
Why? It's not a ballot question about changing a charter. It's not a ballot question about, anything that belongs in charter and rules that I can see.
Well,
All the CPA stuff is in finance. I'm just suggesting we could handle it.
when we did a ballot question for it, I do believe it started off in charter and rules
It did.
to come up with the CPA as an option at 1.5. So now it would be going back to discuss the decreasing of it. And then create the ballot question for it.
So, Mr. President, I would be fine with it going to finance if we can achieve getting it on the ballot through that path. The only thing that I know is that because the city council is the body that voted to put it on the ballot in the first place, this body has to vote a majority favorable to put it on the ballots for the voters to have their voice on how it continues here in the city. We have to do it the same way.
Correct.
But whether it could go through finance or charter and rules, I'm perfectly happy if it goes to finance.
I'll
Well,
withdraw
you-
my motion, Mr. President.
You can always do to finance, copy to charter and rules, and after finance takes it up, you send it to charter and rules.
Okay,
Want to do that?
finance is fine with me.
All right, to finance with a copy to charter and rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
32 from Counselor Anderson Burgos, or at the Board of Health, Legal Department, and others involved in the departments come to the public safety meeting to discuss how the city will use what is receiving the lawsuit settlement for opioid. So that would be to public safety.
I'd like to be added to that, Mr. President.
Yeah, I was getting that. I have a sticky here with that, but adding Counselor Givner. But this is to public safety with a copy to Board of Health and the Law Department. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. 33 from Counselor Bartley, that the auditor provide an update on the pilot agreements. Send to finance.
Did she send a late file today, Jeff? I'll just take that up right now if she did. I thought I saw an email come through, but I didn't have a chance to open it.
Yeah, I don't think it was on pilots.
That was capital stabilization.
Thank you.
So this is to
Thank you.
finance.
Finance with a copy to the auditor.
Copy to the auditor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
34 from Council Bartley at the Law Department, Building Commissioner and the City Property Group provide an annual update on the city receivership program. Refer to DGNR.
Just some discussion.
Yeah, Council Bartley.
Yeah, I think you heard what a former speaker said, talk about the receivership program. So that's something that Mr. Jourdain, Mr. McGee, Mr. Bresnahan, attorneys Wilson and Corshane, several other counselors, myself included, got the receivership program really modeled after Springfield's. So we've had now at least 3 times they've come in with pretty amazing reports about the deplorable conditions in certain properties and the amazing turnaround based upon the receivership program, which there's a concrete example of taking what was really uninhabitable housing and putting it in the hands of a receiver and then making it, model housing. So there's a perfect example of something that this body did, frankly, with very little direction from anyone else. But our friends, attorneys Corshane and Wilson, came in. You were here yourself, Mr. McGee, with that, and that was some pretty robust hearings, and we got a receivership program passed, which is something for which we should be very, very proud. And so this goes directly to what we've discussed on multiple fronts tonight over several agenda items. So possibly that's being heard, but hopefully we'll get a report from the law department, and we'll have them come in. And actually, I would encourage people to look at the past those who've just been on the board. They should look at the past receivership reports, which there are at least 4 or 5 of them. So I think they're really informative, and they can all be accessed by way of the law department. Thank you.
Councilor Jordan.
If I could be added, I would really appreciate it. And I want to compliment the city that when they have done these receiverships, they've done a really nice job. So it's just we need to put it on steroids and really get to really expand it out and do it even more. So look forward to the report, and then also talking about just the sheer potential of expanding this and what resources they would need to do that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Aren't steroids illegal or frowned upon? I'm just kidding.
Good point.
Councilor Bartley, one thing on the
metaphor.
pilot program, just to give you an update.
That's why my friend Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame, although he should be.
Councilor Bartley, hold on one second.
He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Dave, the pilot program, an email did come in, but it'll be referred to as a communication for the next agenda.
Beautiful.
That's what it was.
So-
Right, just on that. Okay.
Yeah, so and that's really a lapse in my comments, because I should have had the law department, because really the law department is critical. I mean, we created the legislation here, but the law department really carried the ball, going to hard work in the housing court in front of pretty stern judges, but with receivers who are private contractors coming in and proving their mettle. And now we have a very effective receivership program in the city, and so I just encourage people to learn more about this if they would. And I think I really look forward to the communication coming in, because I know from Attorney Cunha and Attorney that succeeded her. I'm blanking her name right this second. I don't know why. Attorney Barnes. I'm sorry. Were both very effective presenters in front of the housing judges, because I've seen them at work. And Attorney Cunha, by the way, is by the way, you might be interested in knowing, she's just moving right up in the rankings in the housing court. So I think she's an assistant clerk magistrate, which is pretty darn impressive. So and she started here in Holyoke, or was here in Holyoke for a while. So, and she was instrumental in the receivership program. And so just a little history. Thank you.
So adding Councilor Jourdain, receive, refer to DGNR, copy to legal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 35 from Councilor Jourdain, that the emergency call and important announcement calls from the city be addressed to residents, beginning with, this is an important message from the city of Holyoke, not, this is an important message from your organization.
Receive, adopt, refer to the mayor.
Receive, adopt,
Refer to the mayor, please. Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
36 from Councilor Jourdain, that the assessor office retain expert independent appraisal services for the Holyoke Mall assessment and abatement. So this would be receive,
Adopt, refer to the mayor and the assessor.
adopt, send to the mayor and the assessor.
Yes, please.
Councilor McGivern.
I know we're recommending here, but it just would be nice to know what the cost would be of an independent appraisal service and, to hear from some people about it. We've already heard from the assessor, chief assessor about it, but it would be nice to, before we say yes or no, to know how much it's going to cost.
10 to 40,000. That was the number that was given by the assessor's office to do it. And then, of course,
They'll have to come back with appropriation too.
right, we would, right, exactly. That would come back before us. This is just to simply ask them to do it. But, if it gets to that point, they may reject the suggestion, and obviously they control that.
So this is to receive, adopt, refer to the mayor as a recommendation.
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 37 from Councilor Jordan, Councilor Bacon, that Governor Healy return local control of our schools in 2023. This would be receive, adopt.
And send to Governor to be Healy, and under discussion. Or
Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, since we're adopting this, I'll try and keep it brief. I think basically, best as I understand, pretty much every counselor supports, as this, feel free to weigh in if I have it wrong, but I believe pretty much every city councilor I heard on throughout the community supports return of local control back to our schools. And we now have a fresh set of eyes coming into this with Governor Healy, and I'm really optimistic that she'll take an approach that revisits this issue. This is important. 7.5 years in, this has not worked. This has been a failed experiment. We have lost, I'm told, upwards of 1,000 teachers over the last 7.5 years. They have not provided the resources. What we could have, and I would encourage, is, they need to hold us accountable. They need to, have monitoring and doing the other things that they do. But this notion that the state comes in, runs everything, and that's revolutionarily better. And it's like, after 7.5 years, you would think we would see some really tangible results. As a general rule, what you're seeing is the opposite of improvement. You're seeing a devolution of results, lower scores, loss of key staff. And they're certainly not saving any money. I'm not sure what the heck they're doing. But this experiment has totally failed. We certainly need their tender, loving guidance, but it is long overdue. This is an outrage, an anomaly that shouldn't have happened then. And there's no defense for it today, that we cannot have local control of our schools. They still have massive influence over us, financially, regulatorily wise, and otherwise. But this notion that we can't have a school committee and a local elected leadership makes no sense to us, certainly to myself. I think I've heard from the vast majority of citizens in this city, and I know certainly as a parent with kids in the schools, local control is the norm for a reason in this country, that it's a fundamental underpinning of the federalist system of the United States government, that and basic principle of subsidiarity, that you would have the control at the people who are closest to the children and control of a community over its own schools. It's fundamental to a city, and to be allowed to go on for this long with these type of weak results is unacceptable. And it's not to give a blind eye to those areas of improvement that have been made, but overall, this has not worked out well. And number two is this notion that, what are we going to go on? How many generations are we going to go under at this pace to have the state control of our schools? And so this seems like, and rumors has it that she is warm to the notion of having local control over our schools. So I think if we don't speak up for ourselves, we can't expect her to grab the mantle. And I think it's high time for this city to speak uniformly with new leadership now at the helm, that this is really important to this community to get our schools back.
One point to point out, when she was here prior to being elected governor, she went to the Victory Theater to get a tour. Mayor Garcia and I supported her running for governor, and she announced at that thing that it was time that Holyoke get it back.
Really?
So
Wonderful.
It's not that she's warm to it, she supports it.
Perfect.
So, and I know the mayor has been adamant that it come back to us.
Perfect.
So with this, I understand what you're saying, but I can honestly say it's something that's already being fought for and worked on, and prior to her being elected, she supported it. Councilor Rivera.
I just have a question in process. I support it 110%. I just, to my understanding, wouldn't it be under the Board of Education and the commissioner's decision? They're the ones that placed us under receivership.
She appoints all those people, though.
Yeah.
That is true. But she doesn't make the final decision. I think they do.
She can make the recommendation.
She can okay. That's cool.
So with that,
would be awesome.
Councilor McGivern.
Just 2 cents, I would support this 100% also. I think it's important that, as Councilor Jordan said, that we send a message that we want our public schools back under local control. We have a school committee that has not given up. They've worked even though a lot of their powers and purviews were taken away. We had 2 decent receivers who worked very hard, but across the board on some of the most important things, receivership failed. And one thing that will take forever to make up is we've lost over 200 teachers, experienced teachers, to other communities because they ran away from what they were being put through. And they took contracts and they took jobs in other communities and are all teaching, and now we have a system that's begging people to come into our system to be teachers. The current status of the contract with teachers are non-tenure teachers, 4-year teachers, 6-year teachers are getting an increase of $6,000 to $8,000 across the board. Tenure teachers, 10 and more, are being offered $2,000. That's an insult to experience. They know a tenure teacher, if they leave the city of Holyoke to another community, they're not going to start at their current rate of pay. They're going to lose money. They know they have them. To me, that is just a slap in the face to teachers that have given their lives and given their careers to our children, to our system, and that's why receivership doesn't work. It should be local control.
So this would be to receive, adopt, send to, when they are sworn in, Governor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 38 from Councilor Jordan, the mayor, and Wisteria House Director, please give the city council an update on the repair plan for the wall. Motion would be...
I was going to say refer to finance with a copy to them.
Right, so motion be receive, send to finance with a copy to the mayor and Wisteria House.
Looking a copy of CPA too?
And not the CPA yet. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 39 from Councilor Jane, that the Marijuana Impact Fund be used to fund access to programs for marijuana addiction and problems for use in Holyoke residents.
I'm recommending receive, adopt, refer to the mayor, OPED, and the Board of Health.
Receive, adopt, refer to OPED, Board of Health, and the mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. President,
Councilor Tallman.
Councilor Jane, could I be added on to that?
Be honored.
It's a great honor, great order for this. It's just like the MGM and gamblers. They have that Gamblers Anonymous. They had a program to help fund that for problem gamblers.
Yep, absolutely.
Adding Councilor Tallman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 40 from Councilor Jordan, that the Representative Duffy, Senator Vilas, Governor Baker, and Governor-elect Healy provide the City Council with an additional $4 million in annual local aid starting with the current fiscal year 2023 so that they can avoid massive tax increases.
I'd like to receive and adopt this and refer it to these 4 individuals, please.
Motion is receive, adopt, refer to those mentioned. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 41 from Councilor Jordan, that the city engineer review the opportunity to put raised sidewalks in front of Blessed Sacrament on Westfield Road.
I'd like to
Report
refer
back.
it to public safety with a copy to the city engineer.
Public safety, copy to engineer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 42 from myself, that a no parking zone be created located at Waldo Street. This I'd say refer to ordinance with a copy to the city engineer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman, Mr. President, can I make a motion to suspend the rules to take up 43, 45, 46, 47, and 48, and refer to Committee on Finance?
Second.
Motion to take 43, 45, 46, 47, and 48 as a package. Suspend the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 43 is 1,000 from Board of Health to overtime. 45 is 50,000 from highway to trash recycling. 46 is $1,445 for building codes, inspections, and other contracted services. 47 is 25,000 for the urban grant. 48 is the New England Foundation 15,000 grant. All to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Back to
President.
44.
I can make a motion to suspend the rules, two rules. One, to take up 44 for final action this evening, and two, this is at the request of our city solicitor that we allow our city solicitors present to explain why there's a request to adopt this this evening.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading with a motion to allow legal to answer questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So here it is $9,910.92 from refuge to refuge vacation buyback. With that, we'll turn it over to Mike.
Mr. President, this order is being asked by the administration to be taken up tonight on the recommendation of the mayor. As such, council is aware that this is for an individual who is retiring from the department as of 12/31/22. By taking action tonight, he will be bought out of that amount, and the position can be advertised and filled immediately. So with concurrence of 9 members tonight on the mayor's written recommendation, this can be passed on first reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions for legal?
What department again? This
DPW.
DPW. Okay.
So it's in essence to allow to do the buyout. The employee is now gone. We can advertise starting January 1st to then fill a position. If we don't, then we can't fill a position.
Be more
And this is just buying back whatever accrued
Correct.
vacation time he
Right.
had.
Correct.
Okay.
We pay it now or pay it later.
Fine.
Right. So instead of delaying,
This person's entitled to this money, so that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
the motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion passed second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for item 44.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you approve that one. 50 from Councilor Puello, that 1 out of 2 handicap parking signs at 588 South Summer Street, as well as the 3rd on Morgan Street, please be removed. So that would be to ordinance.
Ordinance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
51 from Councilor Puello, that a do not enter sign Main and Springdale Street, please.
Receive and adopt.
Receive,
Motion
adopt,
to be
DPW,
receive,
please.
adopt, send to DPW.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, late files. Late file.
Motion
order
to package
that-
them all up and table them unless they're emergency.
So order that section 240, section 241 of the city ordinances regarding vacation leave be amended. That'd be to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? B is order that section 2-35F for personal days. That goes to ordinance as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? C, that from Councilor Murphy Ramboletti, that the law department be given the authority to hire a paralegal above mid-range. That would be
Ordinance.
to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Section 2-40, 2-41, the correct language for E, G, and B. That's also ordinance. All those in favor? All opposed? E is, it looks like a communication, legal.
President, what was that last one?
Section 2-40, 2-41, the city ordinances be updated to correct accrual language.
What is it? For vacation?
I think so. So that's the ordinance.
Thanks.
The communication, please select the following legal opinion regarding Councilor Jordan regarding the potential access to legal advice and opinions. Motion be to send to.
We can just receive it.
Motion is so.
I mean, I would put a copy in charter and rules.
So send the charter and rules.
But I do appreciate, but I don't want to discuss it because we're under
Right.
the rule suspension. But I'll talk with the law department offhand on the opinion.
So 2 charter and rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? F is another communication. The following is a written response to request for an opinion regarding the city council seat vacated if a ward is elected and moves out. That would be to charter and rules as well.
Yep.
Charter and rules. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
I think that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Before I said I wouldn't forget it, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you
Yes.
for everything you
Thank
do.
And happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. I said
for
happy
those that
holidays.
celebrate.
Covered them all.
All
All
right.
right, so motion is to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.